In the following days, Jason immersed himself in the laboratory again. As a master of elixirs, Jason is naturally interested in these novel and mysterious powers. When he thinks that if he can really develop elixirs that can increase the concentration of everyone's blood, Jason's body will be able to endure it. He couldn't help but tremble slightly. On the Stern continent, many families have strong bloodline inheritance, but most of them are like the Ode family in the Salem Empire. The family bloodline gradually disappears with the passage of time, and finally bloodline spirit master no longer appears. This has to be said to be an extremely sad thing. This research lasted for 3 full months. During these 3 months, Jason hardly left home. Except when he needed to buy some materials, he went out to notify people to buy them. Most of the rest of the time, Jason Sendo locked himself in the laboratory, and even the members of the major forces on the continent were basically missing. For Jason, studying a new difficult problem in elixir science is much more interesting than communicating with those families. Of course, Jason completely avoided seeing him. When he had rare free time, he would still come out and walk around twice to say hello, but soon he would go back to the laboratory. With the experience of the previous one, within 3 months, Jason broke through 5 spiritual power restrictions one after another, and cracked the connection between the 6-path wandering dragons and the spiritual patterns in the red dragon crystal. With each crack, Jason could feel an inexplicable force entering his body. As the number of cracks deepened, the mysterious power entering his body became stronger. Every time the mysterious power enters Jason's body, the blood in Jason's body burns, each time more intensely. However, the effect of each mysterious power increases the blood concentration in Jason's body. It gradually became smaller. When the restriction of the 6 paths was released, the blood concentration in Jason's body only changed from 50% at the beginning to 80% now. Jason was not surprised by this. The improvement of blood is like purifying a solution. It is not difficult to increase the concentration from low to high. However, when the solution has reached a certain concentration, it is not difficult to when it comes to purification, it will never be as easy as it was at the beginning. This applies to any field. At first, Jason didn't feel much about the effects of the bloodline increase in his body. However, as the bloodline concentration continued to increase, Jason discovered a huge benefit brought by the bloodline increase. Effect. In the past, when he was running the spiritual god art, he always felt a sense of inadequacy, but with the improvement of his bloodline, Jason found that when the spiritual god art in his body was operating, he became more and more comfortable. What surprised him even more was that the strange black power accumulated in his body increased as the blood concentration in his body increased. This discovery made Jason feel ecstatic. Since being reborn into this world, this strange black power has been Jason's talisman. It has given Jason a lot of help and is now a necessity for Jason's killer weapon, the Wrath of God. For this, Jason was injured when he was injured. At that time, he didn't dare to consume that black weird power, but now after the blood concentration has increased, the black weird power generated by Jason every time he runs the spiritual god knows is several times more than before. That's enough for Jason to deal with. But at the same time, the doubt that had always been in Jason's mind was raised again at this moment. From the situation of Jason, it can be clearly seen that the generation of this strange black power does come from Jason's bloodline. There is a direct connection with Jason's bloodline. However, the operation of the spirit god art can produce strange black power, and the increase in blood concentration has also greatly improved the practice of the spirit god art. The connection between the 3 makes Jason I couldn't find a clue at all, I was confused. The spiritual god technique was found by Jason in an ancient ruins in his previous life. In his previous life, he was unable to become a spiritual master because he never practiced. However, Jason could know from what happened to him that this spiritual god technique, it seems to have some connection with his own bloodline. Is there some connection between the spiritual god art and the ancestors of the Todd family? Jason couldn't help but guess. If possible, Jason really wanted to go back to the ancient ruins in his previous life to investigate in this era. However, Jason, who had experienced an adventure in his previous life, knew the dangers of the ancient ruins deeply. In his previous life, even if he under the protection of several followers who were strong 9th-level Holy Spirit masters, he almost died in the ruins. In this life, although Jason already knew the existence of many institutions, he did not reach the level when his own strength was not enough. Before becoming an 8th-level Emperor spiritual master, he would never have entered easily soon. Jason was immersed in cracking the 7th restriction. However, Jason encountered trouble with this 7th restriction when Jason cracked the previous 6 restrictions. In addition to using his knowledge of elixirs, he also used his spiritual consciousness and spiritual power. Very helpful. But when facing this 7th restriction, Jason's 6th-level low-level spiritual master's spiritual awareness and spiritual power lost their effect. When he felt that his spiritual consciousness could not penetrate deeply into the 7th restriction, Jason could not help but be dumbfounded. At the same time, his brows also furrowed deeply. At the beginning, when Jason discovered the restriction on the red dragon crystal, he just thought it was set up by the ancestor of the family and the owner of the jade box to prevent others from opening it. However, as he cracked it along the way, Jason had a weird idea. The 9 restrictions on this are divided very clearly and understandably, one link after another, one level after another, from shallow to deep, from easy to difficult, giving Jason a very clear feeling, as if those 9 prohibitions were used by the owner of the jade box for future generations to open slowly. As he cracks the ban more and more deeply, Jason has a clearer and clearer understanding of the strength of the owner who set the ban. Whether in the past life or in this life, it can be said that the owner of this jade box is the one Jason has met. The most powerful person. This kind of power is not only in terms of strength, but also in terms of elixirs. At first, Jason thought that only a 9th-level Saint Master Linguin could break open the jade box, but now, Jason understood that this was absolutely impossible. If you want to break this restriction, only the elixir level and the spiritual master level of the cracker must reach the level represented by the restriction. In order to be able to break it, otherwise it will be impossible to break it. Just like Jason now, in terms of attainments in elixir science, Jason is already comparable to an 8th-level intermediate elixir emperor master, but when facing this 7th restriction, he is a 6th-level low-level spiritual master. But there is nothing you can do. Jason believed that if he could reach the level of a 7th-level imperial spiritual master now, he would definitely be able to break through the 7th-level restriction. However, he was still far away from the 7th-level imperial spiritual master. Why did the ancestor of this family leave such a box behind? Jason couldn't help but smile bitterly in the room. With the strength to set up this restriction, it is completely possible to directly set up a restriction that ordinary people cannot crack. Instead of going to such trouble, set up 9 restrictions with different difficulties, and in each restriction, an inexplicable power is instilled. If there is really anything important stored in this box, wouldn't it be possible to completely open this box until I reach the 9th level of Elixir Master and the 9th level of Holy Spirit Master? When that time comes, Jason feels far away just thinking about it. If he only has attainments in elixirs, he only needs to wait until his physical strength reaches the 9th level of the holy body. Although it is difficult, Jason has confidence to reach this level within 10 years. But if he wanted to become a 9th level Holy Spirit Master, Jason understood that even if he had a large number of spiritual elixirs to assist him, it would not be a simple process. I'm still not strong enough. Looking at the jade box in his hand that had cracked the 6 restrictions, Jason couldn't help but sigh, and then put the jade box into the space ring. There was a hint of firmness and cruelty on his face, since breaking this 7th restriction requires a 7th level Imperial Spiritual Master, then I will reach the 7th level Imperial Spiritual Master as quickly as possible. I still don't believe it, I can't crack it. In this world, as long as Jason wants to figure out something, he has never figured it out. For this, Jason has extremely firm confidence. As for the research on the mysterious power, despite being baptized by the mysterious power 6 times, Jason still did not understand the structure of the mysterious power. He only had a vague understanding in his heart. But to fully understand the elemental composition of this mysterious power that can increase the blood concentration of a person, Jason needs more feelings and experience research. Squeak. After 3 full months of hiding in his laboratory, Jason pushed open the laboratory door on a sunny afternoon. The dazzling sunlight refracted in from outside the door, making Jason feel like he was in another world. Master. Claire has been tidying up Jason's room these days, delivering meals and changing clothes. When she has nothing to do, she has been practicing outside the laboratory, so when she saw Jason coming out, she had a look on her face. He suddenly showed a smile and said in surprise, then rushed forward. Claire. Jason smiled and touched the little girl's head, and Claire's face suddenly turned red. By the way, where are father and the others? Jason asked aloud. Master, they were all called into the palace by His Majesty Lecent. I heard that Master Silton and others from the Kingdom of Weiss came over. I was planning to call you, but when I saw you were still in the laboratory, after that, she just didn't scream. Claire said. Master Silton? Why are they here? Hearing this name, Jason couldn't help but feel a little doubt in his heart. In May, the sun was shining brightly, and the gentle wind was like the gentle care of a woman, blowing across people's faces and making people feel at ease. It is now afternoon, and the air is filled with bursts of sunshine. Pedestrians are walking freely on the street, enjoying the hard-won warmth. On the tops of the buildings on both sides of the street, the colorful glass is shining under the sunlight, reflecting all kinds of brilliance, dazzling the eyes. The palace of King Orlando was abuzz with people at this moment. In the main hall of the palace, His Majesty Lecent sat at the head of the table, while below, Master Silton and his entourage from the Kingdom of Weiss were seated at the guest seats one by one. On the other side of the hall, Renaud, Leo, Rudolph, Dylan and others lined up, and sitting at the top was naturally Jason's father Renaud. In Stern Continent, strength is everything. As an 8th-level Imperial Spiritual Master, Renaud has broken the record of the strongest person in the Northwest countries. In terms of status, he is even higher than Nexent. However, in the Kingdom of Orlando, as a guest, Renaud will naturally not be so high-profile. Haha, Master Silton, when you come to Orlando this time, you have to stay for 2 more days. There are still some days before the mainland elite selection. In a few days, you will set off with our team from the Kingdom of Orlando. Nexent spoke out boldly. Your Majesty Lecent, that's what we have in mind, so we'll be chatting a lot these days. In the main hall, Silton said with a smile on his face. As the chief elixir master of the Kingdom of Weiss, the most powerful country in the Northwest, and the strongest elixir master in the Northwest countries, with the help of Jason's original spiritual elixir, Master Silton is now a 7th-level intermediate elixir master. He has a great reputation in the Northwest countries. In the past, although Lecent was the king of the Kingdom of Orlando, when he saw Silton, his tone would inevitably be respectful. But now, with Renaud, an 8th-level low-level Imperial Spiritual Master, and Rost, a 7th-level Emperor, the Kingdom of Orlando, which has a high-level Imperial Spiritualist, D. Lin, a 7th-level Intermediate Imperial Spiritualist, and Shadow and Leo, 2 7th-level low-level Imperial Spiritualists, have already surpassed Weiss, known as the most powerful country in the Northwest, in terms of cutting-edge military force. Kingdom. As for elixir masters, excluding Jason, a rising star, Rudolph, with the help of Jason's elixir master's elixir, had been promoted to the 6th level of low-level elixir master a few years ago. In front of Silton, Lycenter's tone also seemed particularly bold. If you are confident, you can speak loudly. This sentence is absolutely true no matter where it is placed. Master Silton, I heard that several geniuses have been born in your Kingdom of Weiss this time. I heard that there are even 2 masters who are at the level of 6th-order spiritual masters at a young age, and there is even a sixth-order intermediate among them. As a spiritual master, it seems that in this continental elite selection, your kingdom of Wasi has a great chance of qualifying, which is really gratifying. As he spoke, Leeson turned his gaze to Wasi. It happened to the first two of the young men in the Sikh Kingdom team. If I guessed correctly, these two should be Ocaso and Sri Lanka. I heard that Ocaso is only 29 years old now and has reached the realm of the 6th level intermediate spiritual master, and His Highness Sri Lanka is a powerful person. The 8th prince of the Sikh Kingdom is even more remarkable. He is only 27 now. He is a 6th level low-level spiritual master and a 5th level intermediate elixir master. He even won the title of the Northwest Spiritual Medicine Master Conference back then. Runner-up, there are so many talents, so many talents. Leeson looked very emotional. Our Kingdom of Orlando is not good enough. We barely have a 6th level low-level spiritual master, and he was trained with all the strength of the kingdom. Dios, have you seen it? We are both princes, and with His Highness Sri Lanka's strength, you should learn more from His Highness Sri Lanka in the future, do you hear me? Leeson shouted to Dios beside him, his tone was extremely sincere. Father, I know this. Dios smiled and nodded, listening to Leeson's teachings. Your Majesty Leeson, you are too polite. We are just lucky. Moreover, whether it is our Kingdom of Weiss or the Kingdom of Orlando, they are all people of the northwest countries on the mainland, and there is no distinction between them. Silton was modest. He made a sound, but everyone could hear a hint of pride in his tone. The Continental Elite Selection is a once-a-decade talent competition jointly held by the mainland's most powerful twin towers and the 4 major empires, with the purpose of selecting human geniuses across the continent. The winner of the competition will not only receive generous rewards, but also be able to undergo the trial of the twin towers in the center of the continent. For these geniuses, it is undoubtedly a great opportunity to step onto the mainland stage and change their life experiences. It's just that the entire continent is too big and there are too many geniuses. Places like the 4 empires can select the most powerful elites in the country and then directly participate in the competition. However, if small country alliances like the Northwest countries want to qualify for the competition, they need to conduct a competition between the small and large country alliances beforehand. The final winner will be eligible to participate in the final elite competition. On such a continental stage, the Northwest countries can only participate as a common group. During the competition, the other continental alliances will only refer to a certain player as the Northwest countries, but not to a certain player as the Kingdom of Wisconsin. That's why Silton said this. But having said that, as the hometown of the players, the Kingdom of Weiss, if there are players who can really stand out in the small country league and participate in the continental elite competition, the influence of the country in the Northwest countries will be greatly improved, which cannot be ignored at all. The age limit for the mainland elite selection competition is the same as that of the Elixir Master Conference in the Northwest countries. 30 is the cutoff to select talents among the younger generation. The geniuses of the entire continent, what a spectacular and huge number. Genius spiritual masters from all over the continent gathered together, like the Northwest countries, which were just a corner of the continent. Back then, Renault was promoted to the 6th level of low-level spiritual master before he was 30 years old, is the number 1 master in the Kingdom of Orlando, but on the mainland, such geniuses are so common that they are not unusual at all. In the Northwest countries, the strongest players in every elite selection competition are basically the Kingdom of Weiss. This is why the Kingdom of Weiss has ranked first among the 5 most powerful countries in the Northwest for hundreds of years. Although the Kingdom of Orlando has already surpassed the Kingdom of Weiss in terms of top-notch military force, there is still a certain gap between the Kingdom of Orlando and the other party in terms of lower-level spiritual masters. Your Majesty Leeson, on the way here this time, I heard that Master Jason is also in the kingdom. I don't know why he didn't come here today. Speaking of Sri Lanka's runner-up in the Elixir Medicine Conference, Silton, he couldn't help but ask Nexant about Jason. As for Jason, who promoted himself to the 6th level intermediate spiritual master, Silton had a deep friendship with him during the Spiritual Medicine Master Conference. Therefore, from the first moment he entered the hall, Silton paid attention to when we arrived. Jason was not in the hall. When Silton talked about Jason among the people in the Kingdom of Weiss, Ocaso, and Sri Lanka couldn't help but have a gleam in their eyes. At the Elixir Master Conference, Sri Lanka lost to Jason and won the runner-up. In the past 3 years, Sri Lanka had almost no rest and devoted himself to the cultivation of the Elixir Master and the study of the Elixir Master. It took him 3 years till he has been promoted from the 4th level intermediate Heavenly Spirit Master to the 6th level low-level Spiritual Master, and the level of Spiritual Medicine Master has also been promoted from the 4th level low-level Spiritual Medicine Master to the current 5th level intermediate Spiritual Medicine Master. Under the scenery seen by ordinary people, Sri Lanka has endured countless hardships just to catch up with Jason. Even if it does not surpass Jason in the attainments of spiritual medicine, it will still be inferior to the Spiritual Master. He surpassed his opponent in cultivation. Under such a body, Sri Lanka had an extremely proud heart. However, on the court, Sri Lanka did not see Jason, whom he wanted to see most, which made him feel disappointed. Master Jason, according to Patriarch Leo, he has been studying something in the laboratory recently, so he didn't disturb him. Speaking of Jason, a smile spread across Nexon's face. No matter how talented the players in the Kingdom of Weiss are, as long as Jason is here, the Kingdom of Orlando will always be strong. Your Majesty, at this moment, a palace guard suddenly walked in from outside the main hall, and then knelt down in the main hall. Seeing that someone actually came in to disturb him when he was communicating with Master Silton and others from the Kingdom of Weiss, Lecent frowned and said sternly, "What's the matter?" "Your Majesty, Master Jason is here asking for an audience outside the main hall." "What? Master Jason is here?" After hearing what the guard said, Lecent suddenly stood up and said anxiously, "Quick, please come quickly." As he spoke, Lecent Center walked directly off the front desk and walked towards the outside of the hall. When he did this, everyone in the entire hall suddenly stood up. In an instant, there was no one sitting in the entire hall. "Haha, Master Jason, you are here. Master Silton just talked about you to me." Outside the hall, Nexon spoke to Jason with great enthusiasm. Seeing a large group of people walking out of the hall, Jason couldn't help but be dumbfounded. He just heard that Master Silton was coming, and his father and others were here, so he came over. However, he did not expect that His Majesty Lecent would actually bring all the guests in the hall to welcome him. Under Nexon's warm invitation, Jason walked into the hall with a wry smile on his face. In terms of location, and at everyone's strong request, Jason sat next to his father, and everyone in the Orlando Kingdom looked up. Position. "Are you Jason? That year, you defeated my Sri Lankan brother and won the championship at the Spiritual Medicine Master Conference?" Not long after everyone had just sat down, a young man from the Kingdom of Weiss suddenly stood up. His eyes were full of war as he looked at Jason. It was Ocaso, who was known as the #1 genius in the Kingdom of Weiss and was a 6th-level intermediate spiritual master at only 29 years old. "I want to challenge you," he said astonishingly, shocking everyone present. "Presumptuous." Seeing Ocaso saying such words in public, Master Silton's face suddenly changed and he shouted angrily, "Ocaso, hurry up. Sit down. Master Silton, I just want to challenge Master Jason, who is famous in our northwest countries. I wonder if his strength is as amazing as his reputation," Ocaso said coldly. After hearing Ocaso's words, D. Lin, Master Rudolph and others from the Kingdom of Orlando couldn't help but laugh. Ocaso and others don't know Jason's strength, but D. Lin and the others know clearly that although the current level is only a 6th-level low-level spiritual master, they can be assassinated by the 7th-level low-level Emperor spiritual master. Jason, who is safe and sound, has a real strength that is simply not comparable to Ocaso's. For a moment, Lin and others all focused on Jason. What's going on? Looking at Okaso, who was looking at him with hostility, Jason's mind was confused. The first time he entered the hall, Jason observed everyone present, including Okaso. With Jason's strength, he could clearly see Okaso's strength in an instant. He was a little surprised that Okaso was so young and had reached the 6th level intermediate spiritual master realm, but that was all. However, Okaso's sudden challenge made Jason stunned, but more importantly, he was speechless. When it comes to geniuses, not to mention Jason's vision in his previous life, even in this life, Jason has seen countless geniuses, whether it is Luo Kuan, who reached the 6th level of senior spiritual master at the age of 20, or the 6th level senior spiritual master at the age of 24. Archimedes, a mid-level spiritual master, or Kiros, the son of Eludiba, who reached the 6th level senior spiritual master at the age of 25, are much stronger than Okaso, but even these people, all were extremely respectful in front of Jason, but now Okaso from the northwest countries was so arrogant that he couldn't help but laugh and cry. Jason was naturally too lazy to pay attention to such a meaningless challenge. You must know that he has even killed Cornhill, the patriarch of the Naton family and a 7th level low-level imperial spiritual master. 6th level low-level people like Okaso, the spiritual master, would naturally not be taken to heart by him. What? Don't you even have the courage to accept the challenge? Okaso sneered. Okaso's father is a prince of the kingdom of Weiss, and he and Sri Lanka are cousins. They grew up together. One of them is extremely talented in the field of elixir, and the other shows amazing talent in the field of spiritual master. For Sri Lanka, Okaso has always taken care of him like a biological brother when he was a child, and the two often get along with each other. But 3 years ago, since Sri Lanka came back from winning the runner-up at the Spiritual Medicine Master Conference, Sri Lanka seems to have become a different person, focusing on himself. In the palace, he practiced non-stop every day. After learning why Sri Lanka was like this, Okaso felt an inexplicable resentment towards Jason. This resentment was not hatred, but a state of extreme dissatisfaction. As Jason's reputation in the northwest countries became more and more famous, Okaso became more and more dissatisfied with Jason. Especially after he came to the Kingdom of Orlando this time, almost all the people of the Kingdom of Orlando came to him along the way. All regard Jason as the #1 person in the entire Northwest, no matter in terms of spiritual medicine or spiritual master, no one can match him. If the people only described Jason as the first spiritual medicine master in the Northwest, Okaso would not be so angry for Sri Lanka, although he was dissatisfied with it. However, by describing Jason as the first spiritual medicine master, as a young generation in the Kingdom of Weiss, the dissatisfaction in the heart of Okaso, the first spiritual master, suddenly surged like gasoline being ignited, hence the previous scene in this hall. Seeing that Okaso still didn't sit down, despite his angry shouting, Silton's face suddenly became extremely livid. He said coldly, "Okaso, if you don't want to sit down, you can go out." After that, Silton he apologized hurriedly to Jason again, "Master Jason, His Majesty Leasant, I am not strict in discipline, which makes you laugh. Okaso talked nonsense earlier, please don't worry about it." Seeing that Silton was angry. Although Okaso was the #1 genius in the Kingdom of Weiss and the crown prince of the kingdom, he had no choice but to sit down, but his eyes when looking at Jason were filled with deep disdain. The other party doesn't even have the courage to face his own challenge. Such a person, as a spiritual master, is probably just someone who has been blown away. Okaso has completely determined Jason's position in his heart. With Okaso making such a fuss, the atmosphere in the hall suddenly became a little weird. "Master Jason, 3 years have passed since the Elixir Master Conference. In the past 3 years, the Master's reputation has become even greater in the Northwest countries," Master Silton said with a smile. What he was talking about was naturally Wayne. After repelling the Dawes family, Renault killed members of the Decker family, and then continued, if the master needs anything, just come to me, as long as I, Silton, can do it, I will never refuse. Regarding Okaso's previous challenge to Jason, Silton still felt a little apologetic in his heart. Haha, Master Silton is too polite. After 3 years of separation, the master's knowledge of elixirs has become even more profound. Jason also smiled, and at the same time, he couldn't help but have a trace of doubt on his face. I wonder what the purpose of Master Silton's visit to my kingdom of Orlando is? Jason was not clear about the purpose of Silton's visit, and at the same time he couldn't help but feel a little curious. Generally speaking, on such occasions, the younger generation was not allowed to enter the hall, so at first, Jason was a little surprised when he found that there were actually many younger generations in the hall. Haha, Master Jason is laughing. On this trip, we are naturally here for the Continental Elite Selection. Continental Elite Selection? A trace of doubt appeared on Jason's face. What? Master, don't you know? After seeing that the expression on Jason's face didn't seem to be fake, Master Silton was dumbfounded. It would be understandable if ordinary people didn't know about such a big thing. But how could he not know Jason's identity? Master Jason, don't you know about the Continental Elite Selection? His Majesty Nexante was in the first place and was dumbfounded. He originally thought that Jason would not know about such a big thing, and even if he didn't tell it, Leo and the others would tell it, but he didn't expect that Jason was completely unaware of it. After getting Jason's affirmative answer, Nexant immediately informed Jason about the Continental Elite Selection. As Nexante told the story, Jason's eyes gradually brightened. Your Majesty Lecent, are you saying that the winner of this mainland elite competition can get the teachings of the Twin Towers and the opportunity to enter the mainland secret cultivation realm for trials? He said anxiously. For Jason today, the most urgent thing is to improve his own strength. Whether it is in spiritual knowledge and medicine, or in order to open the Red Dragon Crystal Jade Box, Jason needs to continuously improve his strength. After learning that there was such an opportunity, Jason couldn't help but feel extremely excited. The Twin Towers and the 4 empires represent the most powerful forces in the mainland. On the road of spiritual master training, Jason now needs such confrontation and challenges to continuously improve his strength. There will be no stagnation. Yes, it's just that there are too many elites in the whole continent. It is extremely difficult for us in the Northwest countries to pass the Continental Elite Selection and enter the competition. To become the final winner, in the Northwest countries for more than 1,000 years there has never been anything like this in the history of at this point. Lecent's eyes couldn't help but light up, and he said excitedly, Master Jason, do you want to participate? Haha, such a good opportunity, how could I miss it, Your Majesty Lecent? I wonder what are the requirements to participate in this elite selection? Jason asked. Request? Nexant said excitedly, Master Jason, as long as you want to participate, you will definitely have a place in our Orlando kingdom. Nexant has always been extremely convinced of Jason's strength. He has not been there before. He didn't tell Jason because he thought Jason knew about it, and most elixir masters were not willing to participate in any kind of selection competition for spiritual masters. Now that Jason took the initiative to participate, Nexant was eager to do so. TSK, we all qualified in various kingdoms through challenges one by one. Even Sri Lanka, which has the dual identity of the 8th prince and the elixir master, is the same. This Jason actually relies on connections. It's really on the side of the kingdom of Weiss. Okaso shook his head and spoke softly. Although the voice was not loud, whoever was present naturally heard Okaso's words clearly. Silton immediately looked at Okaso with wide eyes. Oh? After hearing Okaso's words, Jason's eyes couldn't help but narrowed slightly and his brows furrowed slightly. No matter how good-tempered he was, the other party's repeated provocations still made him feel a little uncomfortable. In this case, Your Excellency, were you also selected after challenging all the way? Jason chuckled. Make a sound. Xiao Okaso, in the national challenge of the Kingdom of Weiss, I just got first place by luck, Okaso said proudly. Oh, Jason nodded. I heard you say you want to challenge me just now, so as long as I defeat you, I will be qualified to participate in the trial? Beat me? Haha, Okaso couldn't help laughing. If you have the strength, you can say that, but hey, hee hee. Okaso smiled and said nothing, but the disdain in his eyes could not be clearer. Okaso Silton was completely angry at this time. He just shouted loudly, but was interrupted by Jason. Master Silton, don't blame others. What Okaso said is right. If His Majesty Leasant directly asked me to participate, I think not only the other players in the kingdom would be dissatisfied. In this case, Okaso wanted to challenge me before. I'll just satisfy his request. Jason smiled lightly. Seeing Jason say this, Sierra Tianzu's face suddenly showed a smile. To be honest, although he admired Jason very much for his achievements in elixir science, in terms of strength, Sierra Tianzu, I really don't like Jason. Although he doesn't understand how strong Jason is, no matter what, Jason is only 21 years old now, and Okaso is a rare creation in the entire Northwest countries in 100 years, and he is 30 years old. Zun Lingzhu, a genius who has advanced to the 6th level of intermediate level. In the past month, Sierra Daju and Okaso were both on their way from the kingdom of Chengdu. They only knew a little bit about Jason's assassination by Anya Kuji, let alone the two assassins. Regardless of the strength of the attacker, even if they knew about the two assassins of the 7th level Huang Lingzhu, they would only attribute the failure of the assassination to the reason why Renault and Ross went to their left field, not Jason White. On one's own strength. It is not naive to have this concept. The reality is that Zeerman is limited by their vision as the elixir of a small alliance such as the Northwest Kingdoms. They have no way of imagining how powerful the Northwest Kingdoms will be. Geniuses, like those chosen by Okaso, are already astonishing talents, rarely seen in 10 years. Zeerman deliberately wanted to stop the duel between the two, and opened his mouth to say something, but in the end, he still didn't say anything. Since Jason had accepted the challenge directly, if he stopped it, I'm afraid not only would he not be able to if you accept his favor, you will blame him. Alas, I just hope that Okaso will be more sensible and save some respect for Jason Daju, the king of Orlando. If you go through it, you will go too far, and you will inevitably offend some people. Sierra Xian Feng couldn't help but worry. But when Zwizher Daju was not optimistic about Jason, Orlando Kingdom, Di Lin and others all looked at Okaso like a bunch of idiots. Jason Daju ignored you before because he didn't take you at ease at all. He just asked you to save your face. I didn't expect that instead of being grateful, you turned your face towards me again. I couldn't stand Jason Daju. The fight went on without any hesitation. Regarding Okaso's previous provocation and his friendship with Jason, Daju and others were also holding back a lot of anger. Since the two evil spirits want to challenge, why not go to the competition ground in the palace? At the head of the table, Lai Sanqing said with a smile on his lips. At that moment, a group of people, led by Lai Sanqing, marched towards the competition ground in the palace. You'll see later. Just wait for Silicon Head to beg for mercy. While walking, Okaso approached Jason. Zhong sneered. Jason didn't respond, just smiled, non-committal. After a while, everyone arrived at the competition ground behind the palace. As a place for palace guards to conduct competitions, the entire competition ground was built in a very impressive way. The entire competition ground was paved with thick and wide granite marble, which was hard and elemental. Compare. Whoosh! Under the gaze of everyone in the Yu dynasty, Okaso jumped into the air with 10 people, flew to the center of the martial arts field where Gundam was bullying, and looked proudly at the people below. His move showed the powerful influence of the 6th level intermediate Zun Lingzhu. In comparison, Jason seemed a bit ordinary. He first jumped onto the Gundam arena, and then walked into the center of the arena. Jason Daju, take your time during the test, don't hurt the guests of the Kingdom of Weiss. Lin couldn't help but chuckle. Ha ha. His words immediately caused the officials of the Kingdom of Orlando, the left field master, to burst into laughter. Renaud and the others all had smiles on their faces, and there was no hint of war on their faces, and they didn't even have the slightest hint of worry. On the side, Xiurfang and others from the Kingdom of Weiss were full of doubts. Renaud and the others had also known about Okaso's strength before, but why didn't Jason and Okaso show off their faces at all? On the contrary, it is like watching the excitement from the left, extremely relaxed. Recalling the previous performance of His Majesty Lyson Xing, Lin and others, when Zhuo Okaso challenged Jason, instead of helping Jason, they seemed eager to try and couldn't wait to catch up. This made Xiaoming great. Zhu couldn't help but feel a trace of dissatisfaction in his heart. Could it be that Jason Dazhu is also very strong? Xiaoming couldn't help but have doubts in his mind. However, at this time, Xiaoming could no longer think so much, because the competition on the martial arts field had already begun. Doubtsong Yuan Yen, if you don't have the strength, just give up obediently later. A sneer appeared at the corner of Okaso's lips, and then the whole 10 people were like lightning, aiming at Jason. His body was as erratic as a swallow, like an aurora, dominating the distance across the distance from Shimo. The long vat in the middle was like a spiritual snake spitting a letter, and a fiery red Huyuanli flower bloomed, blocking the huge power of Yuan Sui, aiming at Jason Xuxing and slashing hard. Hurry, it is too fast. At this moment, Okaso completely demonstrated the powerful strength of his 6th-level intermediate Zun Lingzhu. In addition to Lin and other 7th-level Huang Lingzhu, even Xiaoming Dazhu, 6th-level elixir masters like Lu Daozhu, can hardly catch Okaso. Buzz, the air trembled with recognition, and for a while, the entire field was filled with nothing but there was a huge sound of the long sword piercing the empty beggar. However, Okaso has not exerted all his strength, and even the spiritual power on the long cylinder has not been increased much. In his opinion, the thin and weak-looking guy in front of him can be defeated instantly with just a casual blow, no need to spend any effort to beg. The moment the long sword thrust out, Okaso could no longer imagine that Jason in front of him was instantly defeated under his long cylinder. Shou Xiaoyu, I will let everyone know that I, Okaso, am the most talented spirit tree in the northwest countries. Okaso couldn't help shouting in his heart. At that moment, the long vat with the fire element glowing in Okaso's hand was the seal that penetrated Jason. Faced with Okaso's attack, Jason seemed to be frightened. General, standing there in a daze, with no reaction. For a moment, the hearts of those underneath him all froze at this moment. When the long seal pestle in Zhuo Okaso's hand pierced Jason's body, buzz. The space ring on Jason's left hand suddenly flashed with evil light, and a heavy black cylinder suddenly appeared between the two of them, and then the black light flashed, clang. The moment Changxi, who hired Okaso, pierced Jason's robe, he was cut off by the heavy black cylinder. This can't be childish, seeing that Jason actually held on at the last moment. Okaso's eyes instantly became round after his own attack, and he exclaimed, but before he could react. A thunderous roar exploded in left field, causing everyone in the audience to buzz in their eardrums. Bang! Okaso didn't even have time to see anything before he felt a powerful flash of light, and then his body was hit hard, and a powerful force that was impossible to withstand instantly penetrated his body. Under this huge force, Okaso, who was originally ferocious and fell from the sky like a falcon, stood up tall. Okaso tried his best to restrain his body in the air, but no matter how hard he tried, the 10 people were still hit hard to the ground like rag bags. Boom! Amidst the huge roar, Okaso slammed into the competition arena. The hard rock under his body suddenly spread out under his impact. A trace of blood quietly slipped from the corner of his mouth. Silence, a dead silence. Below the Sui martial arena, the breathing of Silton and others in the Kingdom of Weiss seemed to have stopped for an instant. The entire arena was silent, and even the sound of a pin dropping on the ground on the left was clear. It's audible. This everyone in the Qingxi kingdom looked at everything on the stage dumbfounded. Except for Liu Fei, the 7th-level low-level emperor who led the team with Sierra Main Daju, the rest of the people there was disbelief in his eyes, and even Sierra Main Daju didn't look away. Others don't know how strong Okaso is, but the people in the Qingxi kingdom all know it clearly. He is a genius who rushed up from the first stage after defeating the enemy with a single kick. He is a 6th-level man who is not even 30 years old. The intermediate-level Zun Lingzhu is basically a godlike existence in Maoqinjiisho of the Kingdom of Weiss. However, Zhao Mo, their godlike existence, was knocked out by Jason Daju, a 21-year-old Orlando king, with one move. Ru Zhao's visual impact made their brains tremble. Stopped thinking. While Zhuxier and others were in shock, on the Orlando Kingdom side, Renault and others had smiles on their faces. They were obviously confused about the results of the trial. Don't be childish, don't be childish. Just when Zhuxier, Meng Daju and others were shocked and confused, an angry roar suddenly came from the competition ground. I didn't give my full strength before, but you seized the opportunity. I don't believe that I, the #1 genius in Shichengxi Kingdom, will be inferior to you. Okaso wiped away the blood from the corner of his mouth, his eyes were red, with unwillingness and resentment in his eyes. Streams of fiery red spiritual power continued to rise from his body, and the scorching hot qijing kept rolling on the competition field, like flaming red clouds, burning Kong Qi into a barb. Okaso raised the long bat in his hand high, and a fiery red streak of fire rose into the sky from the long bat in his hand like a fire dragon. The powerful pressure hit the sky and the earth, making it almost difficult to breathe. Fire Shu 18 cuts. Okaso roared in his mouth, and 10 people rose into the sky, like a giant flaming bird rising into the sky, and then slashed down in an instant. In the previous blow, Okaso, who was careless, did not use his own power. All the strength, and now, the injured Okaso, in his anger, has launched his strongest spiritual attack. At this moment, Okaso's body suddenly blurred, suppressing the 10-year battle. 8 flames came from Shu, aiming at various parts of Jason's body from all directions. Chanting loudly and fiercely. For the reputation of the first genius in the Northwest, he gave all his Okaso, grinning with a sneer at the corner of his mouth. The powerful fire spiritual power descended overwhelmingly. 18 flame afterimages gathered in the northwest, surging from all directions. The powerful fire spiritual power connected with each other, faintly blocking the entire space, and instantly enveloped Jason's whole body. Inside. As the #1 genius of the Kingdom of Weiss, the most powerful country in the northwest, Okaso practices a low-level moon-level fire-based technique, and this 18 slashes of Naruto is a 6th-level spiritual master in this set of fire-based skills. A powerful spiritual skill that only a master can display. Moon-level skills are quite rare in the mainland. With Okaso's 6th-level intermediate spiritual master strength, if this 18 Hokage slashes is used, even if the opponent is a 6th-level senior spiritual master, he will be killed. You may be seriously injured in an instant under the attack of this spiritual skill. Below, seeing Okaso performing even the 18 Hokage slashes, Master Silton's face instantly turned extremely pale. 18 flames, like 18 fire snakes, came to Jason in an instant. However, there was no trace of worry or nervousness on Jason's face. He just shook his head slightly, and then walked forward leisurely. 18 fire snakes pounced on him from all angles. Jason, at the moment when he was about to come into contact with Jason's body, a black light and shadow quickly enveloped Jason's entire body, forming an airtight ball. Boom, boom, boom. A series of explosions suddenly sounded in the competition field one after another, shaking the entire palace. The skywide flames quickly engulfed Jason in it, just as Silton and others were in shock. A huge whine came from the competition ground, the air trembled, and the flames in the sky quickly dissipated in the air. The black giant sword in Jason's hand was aimed at a group of flames not far away and fiercely split it over. Boom! A huge explosion sounded, and at the same time Okaso's muffled groan sounded. A fiery red figure was violently thrown out from the flames in the sky, and fell heavily to the ground, bleeding. Thrown in the sky, poignant and bright red. No, impossible! A mouthful of blood poured out of Okaso's mouth, which was originally crazy. What showed in his eyes was deep fear and fear. He felt extremely severe pain all over his body. In his perception, his body did not suffer much trauma, but for some reason, no matter how hard he tried, he never had the strength to stand up again. And underneath, Master Silton and others were completely dumbfounded. In their hearts, Okaso, who was known as the #1 genius in the Kingdom of Weiss, was invincible in the domestic challenge competition, passed all levels, and joined the participating team with first-place results. In the end, he was defeated by Jason, which made them unbelievable. What was even more difficult for them to accept was that Jason used only one move to instantly defeat Okaso. Such strength was simply not something that a 21-year-old boy could possess. You must know that Okaso is the #1 genius in the Kingdom of Weiss. He has been cultivated by many resources of the kingdom. It can be said that among ordinary spiritual masters, he is completely capable of leapfrogging challenges. Even some 6th-level advanced spiritual masters. They may not be the opponents of Okaso, who is the 6th-level intermediate spiritual master. Your Excellency, with my strength, am I qualified to join the team? On the competition field, Jason smiled lightly at Okaso, who was lying there. On the competition ground, Okaso, who was lying there unable to move, couldn't help but reveal a wry smile, and said 3 words with difficulty, "I'm convinced." Facing Jason's ability to kill him instantly, Okaso no longer had any thoughts in his heart. There was no trace of pride, and some was just deep frustration. He never thought that he would be defeated by Jason, a young man who was only 21 years old, and he would be defeated so completely that there was no room for error. All the glory and halo in the past are so ridiculous compared to this moment. Seeing Okaso's frustrated expression, Jason couldn't help but shook his head, and then came to the other party and slapped him hard on the top of his head with his right hand. A unique force suddenly passed through Okaso's spinal cord and was transmitted to his whole body. He only felt his body shake. The previously weak body returned to normal at this moment, except for the previous shot by Jason's heavy sword. Although the place still aches slightly, there is no damage to any part of the body, or even to the meridians in the body. Feeling the changes in his body, Okaso was stunned for a moment. His eyes flashed with light as he looked at Jason, and then in everyone's eyes, he bowed heavily to Jason. "Thank you for letting me know my ignorance, but I will not admit defeat. In this continental elite selection, I will definitely qualify on behalf of the Northwest countries." Okaso gritted his teeth and then jumped off the competition field, facing after Silton said a few words to His Majesty Leasant. He left the arena alone. And underneath, Sri Lanka looked at Jason with strong fighting spirit in his eyes. Seeing Okaso's straight back when he left, Jason couldn't help but shake his head and said, "Although this Okaso is a bit arrogant, it doesn't seem to be useless." With this challenge, those in the Weiss Kingdom below the contestants from the Orlando Kingdom were completely dumbfounded. They looked at Jason with expressions of admiration. Naturally, no one would yell that Jason was not qualified. During the following dinner, Silton and others, who were curious about Jason's strength, were all dumbfounded when they found out that Jason's spiritual master level was a low-level 6th-level spiritual master. Then, they all shook their heads, showing deep helplessness. With the strength of a 6th-level low-level spiritual master, he could so easily defeat Okaso, a 6th-level intermediate spiritual master, in an instant. Master Jason, with his attainments as a spiritual master, could actually be so perverted and die. It's no lower than his attainments as a spiritual medicine master. After learning about the Continental Elite selection, Jason also searched for a lot of relevant information in the following days. This is how grand this competition jointly organized by the Twin Towers and the Four Empires is. Not to mention the final mainland elite competition, it is just a trial between small country alliances. Without 6th level strength, it is generally difficult to stand out and become an official contestant. Except for the northwest direction, all over the continent, as long as the forces that the Twin Towers spread to, that is, the places and forces where there are elixir medicine unions and spiritual master unions, will be selected according to the location of their own forces. Of course, there are also some places that will not participate. For example, the territory of chaos is completely in chaos. There is no elixir guild or spiritual master guild at all, so naturally they will not be invited. This time, in the northwest, in the direction of the Cairo Empire, the location of the selection competition is the Rubiner Kingdom located in the southeast of the northwest countries. It is also a kingdom, but the Rubiner Kingdom is much more powerful than small kingdoms such as the Kingdom of Orlando and the Kingdom of Weiss. In terms of power, it is comparable to the entire Northwest Kingdom. At that time, many small country alliances from the northwest of the continent, such as the Levi Alliance, the Thad Alliance, the Rubiner Kingdom, and the Western Wilderness Tribe, will conduct a protracted selection competition, and only the winner will be selected. Have the qualification to go to the Twin Towers in the mainland center for a competition. Time passed day by day, and it was finally time to set off to participate in the Continental Elite Selection Competition. Because the Kingdom of Orlando is located in the east of the northwest countries and is close to the Hengduan Mountains, many contestants from the kingdom gathered in the Kingdom of Orlando. Some of the leaders of the kingdoms here, Jason, who participated in the Elixir Master Conference back then, also knew them. The night before leaving, Lecent held an extremely grand dinner in the palace of the Kingdom of Orlando. Contestants from various countries and forces in the northwest countries gathered together, and it was extremely lively. Early the next morning, a large group of motorcades gathered at the south gate of the royal city. Then, seeing off His Majesty Lecent and the ministers of the kingdom, they drove away from Colton, the royal city of the Kingdom of Orlando, towards the northwest countries in the Hengduan Mountains. The Inner Edge city drove away, where players from the northwest countries from other countries and forces were waiting, and finally headed to the Rubiner Kingdom together. This is an extremely large motorcade. Everyone in the motorcade is an elite person, selected from each kingdom. When countless forces gather together, it will be an extremely huge force. The person in charge of the Kingdom of Orlando is still D. Lin, who was the same as the last time he went to the Spiritual Medicine Master Conference. D. Lin, who has now reached the 7th level intermediate level of Emperor Spiritualist, can be said to be the strongest among the powerful ones sent by all the countries in the entire team. Stronger. Except for D. Lin and others, the remaining ones are the participants of this Elixir Master Conference. These contestants come from various kingdoms and forces. The most powerful ones are also 5th level sect spiritual masters. When they are gathered together, they are a group of spiritual masters. An incomparably terrifying force, they will represent the Northwest nations in this once-a-decade Continental Elite Selection Competition to win an honor for the Northwest nations. But on this trip, Jason took Claire with him. At her strong request, Claire also went to participate in the competition as a member of the Orlando Kingdom delegation, which left Jason in his heart. It feels weird. And Renaud naturally followed the team. Although he did not hold any position and just went with Jason, almost all the strong men in the kingdom did not dare to ignore him. The only 8th level emperor, spiritual master in the northwest countries for more than 1,000 years, this title is enough to cover up everything. The entire team moved forward together, and the speed was naturally much slower. With Jason and Renaud flying at full speed, they could reach the Hengduan Mountains in a few hours. The entire team walked for 3 full days before arriving at the major kingdoms and kingdoms of the northwest countries. The most fringe city where power gathers. Manger City, the most bordering city of the northwest kingdoms, is located less than 100 miles inside the Hengduan Mountains and belongs to the Lothar Kingdom of the northwest kingdoms. As an ordinary kingdom in the northwest countries, the Principality of Lothar is not strong among many kingdoms, but because it is close to the Hangduan Mountains, the exit of the northwest countries, it is quite famous among the northwest countries. The first city of the Lothar Kingdom, Monar City, is also extremely prosperous because it is close to the Hangduan Mountains. Countless caravans from the northwest countries and countless foreign caravans who want to enter and exit the northwest countries have to pass through this Monar City. As the bridgehead of the northwest countries, the city of Mon is extremely majestic. Even compared to Colton, the royal city of the Kingdom of Orlando, one of the 5 great powers, it is not overly impressive. However, Jason and others obviously did not have the leisure to enjoy the scenery. After the team entered Monar City, they quickly gathered with the teams from other kingdoms, and then on the third day, the participating teams representing the northwest countries drove. After leaving Monar City, we entered the Hangduan Mountains. In this competition, dozens of kingdoms, principalities, and forces from the northwest countries participated. There were nearly 300 contestants, plus the guards and team leaders sent by each country. The total number was nearly 1,000 people. The leader of the team is naturally the top masters from the 5 powerful countries, including the Kingdom of Orlando, the Kingdom of Weiss, the Kingdom of East E, and the Kingdom of Sad, including Di Lin, Kakori, and Leo. Among them, except for Di Lin, who is a 7th-level intermediate emperor spiritual master, the other 4 are all 7th-level low-level imperial spiritual masters. This is an extremely powerful team. Some caravans who had received the news in Monar City and wanted to leave the northwest countries all stayed in Monar City and then followed the participating teams. The Hangduan Mountains are full of crises and bandits are everywhere. For ordinary caravans, they usually walk in the mountains with fear and caution, but this time, everyone is full of peace of mind. With such a powerful team clearing the way ahead, no one believed that any group of thieves would carry out robbery without knowing it. In fact, for the players in the participating teams, it was rare for them to leave their own kingdom once, and they still hoped that there would be robbers. They rushed down without thinking long-term, which was undoubtedly an excellent exercise for them. And just when the team was walking comfortably in the Hangduan Mountains, on a certain peak outside the Hangduan Mountains, a man with a middle-aged man in a yellow robe with short blonde hair was sitting cross-legged on a protruding rock in the middle of the cliff. In the surrounding air, countless yellow earth elements condensed together and were extremely strong, like waves, constantly flowing in the valley. Ups and downs. This man was none other than the 8th-level intermediate emperor, spiritual master Lin Deng, the patriarch of the Decker family who came from the distant Kamikaze Empire to kill Renault and Jason. The deaths of Roosevelt and Hoover made Lyndon extremely angry. After leaving the Kamikaze Empire, he rushed all the way. As early as 3 months ago, he was waiting here. With his 8th-level intermediate imperial spiritual master with his strength, he simply could not enter the northwest countries to take action, so he found a mountain peak at the exit of the Hangduan Mountains to practice. At the same time, in the King City of Orlando, Colton, although Roosevelt and Hoover were killed by Reno, however, there are still several members of the Decker family who are not in trouble. They monitor every move of the Todd family every day and continuously pass the news to Lyndon. In May, the climate has begun to gradually become hotter, but the lush green Hangduan Mountains are shrouded in a light mist all year round. At this moment, in the distance, an extremely large team was driving out of the Hangduan Mountains. The eyes of the blond man in yellow robes on the cliff suddenly opened, and a fierce light flashed from his eyes. It was like substance. The ordinary earth elements suddenly boiled in the valley. Whoosh! Lyndon suddenly shot up into the sky, with a hint of excitement in his eyes. After waiting for 3 months, I finally got this opportunity. As early as a few days ago, when Jason and others left the royal city of Colton, the news had been delivered to Lyndon. Originally, Lyndon had already thought about it. He was ready to stay for a long time. In his mind, Renault and Jason had just returned to the Kingdom of Orlando, so naturally they would not leave in a short time. However, after only 3 months, he had been waiting for this opportunity, which made him feel happy. I couldn't help but feel extremely relaxed. In the valley of the Hangtuan Mountains, a huge motorcade was slowly moving forward. It was the team from the northwest countries heading to the Luminar Kingdom. In front of the motorcade, Di Lin was riding on a white horse, looking ahead. As the strongest expert among the guards sent by the northwest countries, Di Lin became the commander-in-chief of the team and was responsible for everyone's safety. Naturally, he was at the front of the team, and in the middle and rear of the team, there were a 7th-level Imperial Spiritual Master is responsible for taking care of him. Behind the team, there were many caravans following in the distance. These were the caravans who were following the team because they needed protection. In the carriage in front of the team, Jason is closing his eyes at the moment, working hard to practice the spiritual god art. The comfortable life these days has allowed him to gather a considerable amount of the black strange power in his body, and the blood concentration is the improvement also gave him a qualitative improvement in his control of this strange black power. In the past, if Jason wanted to control this strange black power, he would have to use all his strength to mobilize it. But now, for Jason, this strange black power is not as powerful as his own spiritual power. It is driven by Prajna Arm, but it is not too difficult to mobilize it at will. Outside the carriage, Renault was on a horse and slowly followed the team. This Jason, it's really cool. We are all riding horses, and he is the only one riding in a carriage. Some contestants in the crowd murmured. Hoof, he is the champion of our last elixir master conference in the northwest countries. He is a majestic master of elixirs. His status is naturally different from ours. Didn't you see that His Highness Tyeria of the Kingdom of Weiss also rode in a carriage? The person next to me couldn't help but said. I really don't understand why these 2 elixir masters have to participate in some competition with a group of us spiritual masters. It's okay if they are not high in elixir masters, but they are still 2 elixir masters. One is His Royal Highness the 8th Prince of the Kingdom of Weiss, and the other is Lord Renault's son. It's really, some contestants couldn't help shaking their heads and sighing, they couldn't figure it out. Generally speaking, elixir masters are national treasures in every country and are extremely precious. However, elixir masters of the same level are weaker than ordinary elixir masters in combat. To participate in such a dangerous trial, it's simply unreasonable. Why do we care so much? Let's think about ourselves. It would be great if we can stand out in this selection and participate in the elite competition across the continent. Only you? Haha. The people next to him couldn't help shouting. Laugh out loud. I don't know how many people from our northwest countries will qualify this time. I heard that there are many experts in the Luminar Kingdom. In terms of overall strength, our northwest countries are on the mainland, alas. At this point, the man let out a long sigh. Humph, so what, our northwest kingdoms used to be weak, but now that we have Lord Renault, that is no longer the case. Speaking of Renault, the eyes of all the players next to him couldn't help but shine. The 8th-level Emperor, spiritual master, in the Stern Continent, a world where strength is respected, for this group of geniuses from the major kingdoms, is definitely an idol-like existence. In the team, the players in various places were whispering, including Di Lin and others who were always vigilant in the team. No one noticed that in the quiet valley, standing on the branch of a big tree in the distance, a yellow figure. It was Lyndon. Then Lyndon's eyes fell on Renault in front of the team. Kill him, it only takes one blow. Although Lyndon knew that Renault was only a low-level Emperor spiritual master, Lyndon still decided to make a sneak attack and kill Renault in the shortest possible time. He didn't want any accident to happen. After all, he is only 1 level higher than Renault, and as an earth element, his speed is only slightly higher than that of gold element Renault. If the opponent does not fight him and tries to escape, he may not be able to kill Renault. The team slowly approached, and the valley was very quiet. Suddenly, buzz. A khaki light instantly enveloped the entire team, and at the same time, a khaki light instantly cut through the sky and stabbed Renault. The powerful Earth spiritual power surged instantly, and the terrifying pressure of spiritual power suddenly fell from the sky. Everyone in the team felt that their breathing was suddenly suffocated, and their vision went dark. In the surrounding air, there was only rich earth elements. Not good. Renaud, who was riding quietly on the horse, suddenly changed his expression. At the same time, he felt an extremely powerful force that quickly restrained his whole body. If a low-level Emperor spiritual master from another place were suddenly restrained by elements and struck with full strength by an intermediate Emperor spiritual master, he would definitely be caught off guard. But Renaud had advanced all the way from the battle. Now facing Linden's sneak attack, Renaud was like a conditioned reflex. First, Renaud immediately held up the metal element barrier of the 8th level Emperor spiritual master, and at the same time, his whole body suddenly soaring into the sky, a long sword immediately appeared in his hand, and he swung it very skillfully. Countless sword shadows turned into long golden chains, which violently collided with the earth-yellow light. Pung! Renaud hit a mountain wall in the distance hard. The mountain wall cracked open and gravel rolled down. Huh? Linden's expression changed. This Renaud actually blocked my sneak attack? Linden was very surprised. Although he did not prepare for the sneak attack before, nor did he concentrate too much spiritual energy, and the attack he released did not exert his full strength, but as an intermediate Emperor spiritual master, his sneak attack did not should be. A low-level Emperor spiritual master can block it at will. How did the intermediate Emperor spiritual master face this sudden attack? Everyone in the valley was stunned. Quickly, everyone get out of the way. D. Lind shouted loudly in front of the crowd, with inexplicable horror in his eyes. Whether it was the elemental barrier or the terrifying spiritual power that covered the sky and the sun, it was clear that the opponent's strength was not something that a small mid-level imperial spiritual master like him could resist. The entire team was in chaos in an instant. Everyone was running away in panic, trying to get away from this area. In the carriage, Jason rushed out suddenly. Come back! D. Lind shouted loudly, grabbed Jason, and took him to a safe place in the distance. In mid-air, Linden's surprise only lasted for a moment. Whoa! Linden's whole body drew an arc like an eagle, rushing towards the mountain wall where Renaud was trapped. On the giant sword in his hand, the khaki earth spiritual power rolled and flowed, impacting into the mountain like a thread. Within the wall. Boom, 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 a series of explosions continued to come from the mountain wall. Suddenly, countless cracks appeared on the 100-foot-high cliff like crispy tofu, and then there was a roaring explosion. In the sound, it suddenly collapsed. Countless gravels were scattered in all directions, and the valley was filled with smoke and dust. A powerful shock wave spread out, like an earthquake, and the ground in the entire valley was shaking. Everyone in the teams from the northwest countries suddenly looked at the broken mountain wall with worry. Suddenly, there was only a boom sound, and at another place on the mountain wall, Renaud jumped out like lightning, and finally landed in the open space of the valley. Golden light covered Renaud's body, and the flowing golden secret text formed complex spiritual patterns. Renaud's cold eyes were like sharp blades, staring coldly at Linden in midair. Who are you? Renaud shouted. Who am I? Haha, at this time, seeing that his sneak attack had failed, Linden was no longer so anxious. He looked at Renaud full of hatred, with a cold murderous intent in his eyes. You harbored enemies of my Decre family, killed 2 of my family, Roosevelt and Hoover, and you actually dared to ask me who I am, Linden said coldly. A member of your Decre family? Linden, the patriarch of the Decre family? Renaud asked. Naturally, Renaud also knew something about the Decre family. He knew that besides the patriarch Linden, the Decre family now had apart from an 8th-level intermediate emperor spiritual master, there is no other strong emperor spiritual master. It seems you don't know anything about our Decre family? Linden sneered repeatedly. After knowing who the other party was, the expression on Renaud's face calmed down. When he killed Roosevelt and Hoover, Reno had already prepared for the revenge of the Decre family, but he did not expect that. The other party's revenge will come so quickly, and the patriarch of the family will come in person. Below, Lin and others' faces changed color after knowing each other's identity. The patriarch of the Decker family, Lin, and the others knew something about the fact that Renault killed the two Roosevelts. They were 8th-level intermediate Emperor spiritual masters. Can Renault block the opponent's attack? It took 3 years to advance from the 7th-level low-level Imperial Spiritual Master to the 8th-level low-level Imperial Spiritual Master, and you have such strength. I have to say that you, Renault, are also a genius. It's a pity that you shouldn't kill a member of my Decre family. Anyone who dares to attack our Decre family will have only one result, and that is death. Lyndon said coldly, and at the same time, streaks of earthy yellow light continued to twine from his body, and a terrifying spiritual power aura. As the pressure dropped, the air couldn't help but tremble. Countless earth elements condensed into a huge hand of earth elements in the air, and then aimed at Renault's location and slapped it hard. Are the elements materialized? Huh? Renault snorted coldly. As he waved his hand, a golden elemental hand also condensed in the void, and then collided hard with the earth elemental hand. Boom! When the spiritual power trembled, the void collapsed, and the two giant hands collapsed instantly, turning into rich spiritual power elements that filled the sky and dissipated. Seeing that Renault's elemental attack was actually on par with his own, Lyndon's expression couldn't help but change. He rose into the sky, and the earth's spiritual power flowed from the giant sword in his hand, and he aimed it not far away. The Renault was smashed away with a bang. Underneath, Renault was not afraid at all. Countless golden streams of light circulated on his body, meeting Lyndon in the sky. 2 rays of light, one golden and one yellow, continuously impacted together, hitting from the sky to the bottom, from the valley to the mountain forest. The spiritual elements in the entire world were rioting, forming a series of spiritual storms, which was extremely terrifying. Boom, boom, boom! A series of roars continued to sound in the valley. Wherever the powerful spiritual power fluctuations went, trees collapsed and rocks turned into powder. The teams below all retreated crazily. They looked at the battle between Renault and Lyndon in astonishment, their expressions dull. The caravans following the participating teams in the distance were completely stunned. With their status, it was extremely difficult to see battles between Imperial Spiritual Masters, let alone 8th-level Emperor Spiritual Masters. It's too scary, it's too scary. Is this the 8th-level Emperor Spiritual Master? This pressure is too terrifying. Among the teams from the Northwest countries, the number 1 master of the Eastern Kingdom and the leader of the Weiss Kingdom, the bodies of Kakori, Leo, and others who were 7th-level low-level Imperial Spiritual Masters were trembling slightly. The mere aura of fighting from Renault and Lyndon made these masters from the Northwest countries feel that their whole bodies were full of restraints, making it difficult to move. In the sky, at this time, Renault and Lyndon finally separated amid a huge roar. Renault's robe was torn to pieces, with several huge gaps appearing. However, Lyndon on the opposite side was not having an easy time, and was in a very embarrassed state. Isn't this Renault a low-level Emperor Spiritual Master? Why is he so strong? In mid-air, Lyndon was shocked in his heart. Originally, he thought that with his 8th-level intermediate strength, he could easily kill Renault. Unexpectedly, in the previous battle with Renault, he, an intermediate Emperor Spiritual Master who was 1 level higher than the opponent, did not account for even half a point. It was cheap, which shocked him deeply. How did Lyndon know that Renault, who had been reborn after Jason's regeneration potion, was a low-level Imperial Spiritualist, but his physical strength was 1 point higher than that of an intermediate Imperial Spiritualist like him, and he had practiced the metal system in the Jintong Palace? Renault, who basically controls the 9 forms of secret magic as a spiritual master, is also much better at understanding the laws of spiritual power than the average Imperial Spiritual Master. With the two offsetting each other, Renault was even 1 point stronger than Lyndon in terms of strength. Seeing that he was unable to take down the Renault for a while, Lyndon's eyes in the sky became extremely solemn, and then his hands started to dance quickly. At this moment, the earth elements within a radius of a kilometer suddenly condensed crazily. Countless spears with black light flowing in them continued to form in front of Lyndon, and a heavy sound like a bell and a drum slowly sounded in the world. The mystery of the earth-black spear array boom amidst the huge roar, the sky dimmed in an instant, and the forest of black spears in the sky, condensed from earth elements, aimed at different targets in an instant. Reno in the distance shot away crazily, sealing off the world. Wherever it went, the air trembled, ripples appeared, the space was torn apart, and the terrifying aura spread out, like the end of the world. A sneer could not help but form on the corner of Lyndon's mouth. With the strength of his 8th-level intermediate Emperor spiritual master, he believed that Renault would never be able to catch his attack. However, under Lyndon's astonished gaze, Renault's face opposite him not only showed no trace of worry, but instead showed a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. A series of misty golden lights suddenly condensed around Renault's body, forming a golden ball. In the middle of the ball, countless extremely sharp golden spiritual powers were like sword snakes. A unique pattern is constantly circulating, and murderous intentions are everywhere. The 5th basic secret method of controlling the metal spirit master space cutting. Suddenly, a ball of light burst out from Renault's eyes, and the powerful metal spiritual power exploded like an ignited explosive barrel. Buzz 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 amidst the trembling sound of spiritual power, the void collapsed, revealing a series of dark space cracks. Countless golden sword snakes were like a heaven and earth net that wrapped the entire world, and then, countless golden sword shadows merged together in an instant, condensing into a huge golden sword rainbow, aiming at the spear formation on the opposite side and slashing away. Boom, 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 2 extremely powerful spiritual powers collided together instantly, and the terrifying spiritual power exploded. In Lyndon's extremely horrified eyes, he used all his strength to unleash the black sword. The spear array, under the slashes of Renault's golden sword rainbow, continued to explode, unable to block the opponent's attack at all. Then the golden sword rainbow penetrated the forest of spears, aimed at Lyndon and struck hard. "No, this is impossible," Lyndon let out a frightened roar. He wanted to escape, but the speed of the golden sword rainbow was too fast. In the crisis, he had to block the giant sword in his hand in fear. In front of himself. Boom struck Lyndon as a majestic force surged out from the golden sword rainbow. Terrifying cracks burst out in the space, as if a mountain torrent erupted, and substantial energy swept through the 10,000 people. Fong, destroying everything in its path. Under this huge bombardment, Lyndon's whole body was thrown away as hard as straw, and smashed into a cliff not far away, creating a deep and huge pit on it, and blood flowed from him. Spewed out wildly from his mouth. This scene immediately made the eyes of everyone below widen, and they were instantly stunned. What's going on? Everyone was stunned on the spot with dull expressions. Renault is very famous in the Northwest countries these days. As soon as he returned to the Kingdom of Orlando, he did not hesitate to kill Roosevelt and Hoover of the Decray family, and destroyed the Dark Knight organization in a matter of seconds, which made him even more with the title of Overlord. The background of the Decray family has also been passed down among the top forces in the Northwest countries. Ordinary people may not know much about the Lyndon patriarch of the Decray family, but how come 7th-level low-level imperial spiritual masters like Kakori and Leo don't know that the patriarch of the Decray family is the one in front of them? Then Lyndon, an 8th-level intermediate earth element imperial spiritual master. But before it was unbelievable. They all couldn't believe it. According to the intelligence, Renault was an 8th-level low-level imperial spiritual master, but he defeated Lyndon, an 8th-level intermediate level. This made Kakori and others confused. But I don't understand, Gue doesn't understand. After all, Renault is an imperial spiritual master from the Northwest countries. For him to be able to defeat his opponent, Kakori and others are still full of surprises. Impossible, this is impossible. While Kakori and others were shocked and delighted, on the cliff, Lyndon's eyes widened and his face was full of horror. Boom! He suddenly rushed out of the cliff, suspended in midair, gritted his teeth and stared at Renault in front of him. Impossible. Isn't this Renault an 8th-level low-level Emperor Spiritualist? And he was a 7th-level low-level Emperor Spiritualist 3 years ago. Why is his strength so terrifying? The U-spear formation was broken. Lyndon couldn't help but tremble in his heart. In his body, the powerful golden spiritual power that had previously entered his body kept rushing forward, and waves of pain continued to travel through his meridians, making his whole body unable to help but twitch slightly. But compared to the pain, it was, he said, that the shock in his heart was even more unacceptable to him. Snort. On the opposite side, there was a trace of sneer on Renault's face. Around Renault, countless golden sword rainbows swirled in the air like small snakes. They were constantly turning and trembling, and the terrifying golden power spread out. It seems that it caused waves of distortion in the space. Renault, have been waiting for a long time to come and kill us. Renault sneered in his heart, and then, with a flash of light in his eyes, he waved his right hand violently. Phew, call out, call out. The golden sword rainbow that was constantly trembling and slowly rotating around Renault suddenly stopped. Behind him, thousands of golden sword rainbows were densely packed like a huge school of swimming fish in the sea, and they went crazy. He rushed towards Lindang. The fourth form of the basic secret technique of the Gold Spiritual Master, 10,000 swords, returned to the sect. Poison rumbling. There were bursts of explosions in the air, and the space was distorted. The terrifying spiritual power surge was like a storm, aiming at Lyndon not far away and sweeping away. This Lyndon's face, as soon as his color changed, the earth spiritual power in his body shook out crazily, forming a continuously pulsating earthy yellow spiritual power armor on his body surface. Boom, boom, boom. Continuous explosions continued to be heard in the sky. Lin Dang held a giant sword and wanted to resist the attack of the 10,000 swordsmen. However, there were too many sword rainbows in the sky. A large number of sword rainbows continued to hit Lin Dang. The explosion on Lyndon's body caused the spiritual armor on Lyndon's body to tremble continuously, and blood flowed from the corners of his mouth. Why is this Renault's strength so terrifying? No, it can't go on like this. Lyndon's spiritual armor, which was struggling to support his body, continued to produce cracks under Renault's bombardment, and it was possible to collapse at any time. What should I do? His eyes fell on Jason, who was protected by Di Lin not far away, and his eyes couldn't help but shine. Whoosh! Lyndon split several incoming golden sword rainbows with one sword, turned into a stream of earthy yellow light, and aimed at Jason below and shot away. Catch that, Jason, and you can blackmail that Renault. Lyndon roared in his heart. Not good. Di Lin's expression couldn't help but change when he saw Lyndon rushing towards Jason. Although under the pressure of Lyndon's terrifying spiritual power, Di Lin's body felt suffocated, but at this critical moment, he still stood in front of Jason without hesitation. Whoosh! The flaming red power of the fire element suddenly condensed on the long sword in Di Lin's hand, aiming at Lin Dang, who was plundering and slashing away. Roar! The strong fire spirit transformed into a flaming cheetah in the air. It opened its huge mouth and roared, and in an instant it was in front of Lyndon. You are looking for death. Seeing that Di Lin, a small mid-level imperial spiritual master, dared to attack him, Lyndon's eyes flashed fiercely, and he roared, and the giant sword in his hand struck the flame cheetah's head like lightning. Head. Poof. The flame cheetah showed no resistance at all under Lyndon's attack, and was instantly wiped out in the air. Lin Dang's eyes were filled with fierceness, and he aimed at Di Lin and struck hard with his sword. At the same time, he grabbed Jason with his left hand, and a hint of coldness quietly bloomed at the corner of his mouth. Jason, get out of the way. At this critical moment of life and death, Di Lin shouted angrily at Jason regardless of his own life or death. However, Jason stood quietly on the spot, staring coldly at the other party with his black eyes, without even dodge. Seeking death. Lin Deng laughed in his heart when he saw that the other party did not dodge. That's it. Jason's eyes suddenly lit up. The inner spiritual magic was running crazily, and at the same time, he controlled the black strange power to reach the golden ball in his mind. Buzz. A golden spiritual ring suddenly emerged from Jason's head. At the same time, the slowly rotating golden ball above Jason's spiritual seat suddenly sped up, and a light golden SE, the almost transparent golden spiritual power suddenly radiated from Jason's body surface, forming a spherical space with a radius of nearly 100 meters up, down, left, and right around Jason's body, covering Linden in the sky. Covered in. What is this? The metal elemental barrier? Feeling the restraint of this strange space on his body, Linden was shocked and his expression changed drastically. Buzz. At the same moment, another golden spirit ring emerged from the top of Jason's head. It was the first order spirit ring of the nine-headed fearful phantom demon. Then, a void of spiritual energy surged directly from Jason's head. Sen's eyes shot out with electricity, and he aimed at Linden and shot away. Normally, Linden might have reacted when faced with a master of the same level. However, he was facing Jason at this moment. He never expected that the 21-year-old Jason would have such a terrifying reaction. Spiritual skills, so there is no guard in mind. More importantly, he and Jason were only tens of meters away from each other, less than 100 meters apart. For Jason and Linden, it was too close. Because they are too fast. Pung. Jason's mental energy surged directly into Linden's body, which was unable to react. Lin Deng was shocked all over as he rushed over. His eyes were blank and lifeless for a moment. The attack of the giant sword in his hand on Di Lin stopped and the light that originally appeared on the spiritual armor on his body was dimmed at this moment. Come down. However, the whole process only lasted for a moment, and Linden's mind returned to clarity. However, this short moment was enough for an imperial spiritual master like Renault. Boom! A huge golden sword rainbow, as if penetrating the void, suddenly appeared behind Linden, hitting Linden hard wherever it hit. The terrifying aura spread out, and the void was filled with it collapsed, and dark cracks appeared. No, Lin Deng let out an angry roar. He only had time to put up a spiritual armor on his body, but was hit hard by the golden sword rainbow. In the terrifying golden sword rainbow under the attack, the earthy yellow spiritual power armor on Lin Deng's body only blocked it slightly for a moment, and then completely collapsed. Even the void was broken by the terrifying golden sword rainbow, which instantly broke through Lin Deng's body. Den's defense penetrated Linden's back with a terrifying scar that was several feet long. Blood spurted out from Linden's back like a fountain. Linden's face was pale. At this moment, he could no longer care about Di Lin and Jason, who were far away. The fear of death continued to spread in his heart. He struggled to maintain his body, and his whole body quickly rose to the sky. He got up and ran away quickly towards the distance. Whoosh! The lightning wings behind Jason stretched out directly and chased after Linden. In the sky, Reno also turned into a golden stream of light and shot towards him like lightning. I was defeated. What did Jason do before? Linden was filled with anger. Previously, he didn't care about Jason at all. He just wanted to catch Jason to blackmail Renault, but unexpectedly, it was at Jason's place that he suffered a huge setback. If it weren't for his identity as an Earth spiritual master, and his defense power was 1 point stronger than that of spiritual masters of the same level, I am afraid that Renault's previous attack would have been enough. His life. I will definitely take revenge. Next time I will kill that Jason immediately. Linden roared in his heart, but at the same time, he tried his best to escape. Run, run. Linden, who was seriously injured, ignored his injuries, and the spiritual power of the intermediate imperial spiritual master in his body spurted out desperately. He knew that although Renault, who was a gold element, was a low-level imperial spiritualist, he could not speed up. It was not much slower than him, an intermediate earth element emperor spiritual master. If he was caught up by the other party, he would be completely finished. Behind Lyndon, Jason, who had taken the blast potion, also pursued with all his strength, but in terms of speed, he was still not as good as Lyndon, who was an intermediate imperial spiritual master. When the distance between Lyndon and Jason became wider and wider, he said, "Buzz." The nine-headed fearful phantom spirit ring behind Jason's head trembled again, and an invisible wave suddenly shot out from Jason's body, piercing the distance of space and hitting Lyndon's body in front. After using the spiritual shock, Jason felt a sharp pain in his mind. The lightning wings behind him disappeared instantly, and the whole person fell towards the ground. And Lyndon's body, which was running away like lightning, couldn't help but pause at this moment. Again? Lyndon was filled with panic. However, just after this pause, a golden sword rainbow cut through the void and struck Lyndon directly on the head. Ah, no! Lyndon felt desperate. His head exploded with joy under the bombardment of this golden sword rainbow. Lyndon's headless body fell to the ground weakly. "Thank you, brothers and sisters, for your support, thank you. The little master will work hard, Jason, how are you?" In the sky, Renault landed directly on the ground, looking at Jason worriedly. "I'm fine." Jason stood up and gritted his teeth. Although Jason has now reached the realm of the 6th-level low-level spiritual master, the spiritual shock he displayed can completely intimidate some 7th-level imperial spiritual masters. Character, but facing an 8th-level intermediate emperor spiritual master like Lyndon, Jason's current strength is still far behind. While the spiritual shock attacks Lyndon, it will also backfire on Jason's spirit. The gap of 2 levels in spiritual consciousness is not easily overcome. Even if it hits Lyndon, it will only make the opponent slightly. Just one meal. If it were a normal one-on-one battle, facing an 8th-level imperial spiritual master like Lin Dang, Jason's spiritual shock would not be able to affect the battle situation at all. The opponent would only pause for a moment, and there would be no change in the outcome of the battle at all, can only be regarded as a trail. But when fighting against Lyndon's father, whose strength was equal to or even one step higher than Lyndon's, Jason's spiritual shock became the most critical thing in the entire battle. With Renault's strength, although Renault, who has mastered the first 5 of the 9 secret techniques of the Metal Spirit Master, is slightly stronger than Lin Dang in terms of real strength, Lin Dang is after all an 8th-level intermediate-level emperor. A powerful spiritual master, and as an Earth spiritual master, his defensive ability is slightly stronger than that of an ordinary intermediate imperial spiritual master. Even if Renault is stronger than the opponent, he can only defeat the opponent and only injure him, but cannot kill Lyndon. But in this case, Jason's spiritual shock played a decisive role. Such a moment's pause was completely enough for an imperial spiritual master like Renault. Seeing that Jason was fine, Renault immediately walked with him to where Lyndon was. On the ground, Lyndon's headless body lay there quietly, and earth elements continued to escape from his body. 8th level, the spiritual element contained in the body of the Emperor Spiritual Master has reached an extremely terrifying level. Like a spiritual beast, it can concentrate all the essence of the body into the spiritual core in the body, and the Emperor Spiritual Master inside the body. However, all of his spiritual power wanders in his meridians and body. Once he dies, all his spiritual power will dissipate. Looking at Lyndon's body on the ground, Renault's eyes also had a hint of excitement. This Lyndon, but he is an 8th-level intermediate emperor spiritual master. Renault couldn't help but want to shout in his heart. Although he had already prepared to fight this Lyndon, when he actually killed an 8th-level emperor, spiritual master and even an 8th-level intermediate emperor spiritualist, Renault was still so excited that he wanted to cry. Shujiuji has become so powerful. Although he was able to kill Lyndon this time, the main reason was because of the shock of Jason's soul, but Renault was still unable to move himself. How many years now? Renault can no longer remember clearly. What he felt every time in front of the Daos family was powerlessness. That pale feeling of powerlessness was deeply engraved into his bone marrow, making him feel helpless every moment. Incomparable pain kept whipping him. And now Augustus, Daos family, just wait, one day I, Renaud, will come to you and return all the pain you have caused me for so many years to you one by one. Renaud was shouting from the bottom of his heart. His eyes were firm and full of confidence. Master Renaud, Master Jason. In the distance, Lin and others ran over quickly. After seeing Lyndon's body on the ground, they were stunned. Down. In an instant, almost everyone's eyes were focused on Renaud, and what came out of their eyes was incomparable shock and respect. Only Naudilin, when he looked at Renaud, he also secretly looked at Renaud with his peripheral vision. Glancing at Jason aside. The previous confrontation between Jason and Lyndon only happened in a split second. Except for Lin, who was standing next to Jason, the others had long been frightened by the terrifying atmosphere of the battle between Renaud and Lyndon. He avoided it and naturally didn't notice it at all. He just thought that Renaud had killed Lyndon with his own strength. He felt the surprised eyes of everyone. Renaud waved his right hand, and the golden light flashed, and Lyndon's the headless corpse suddenly turned into a pile of red powder and disappeared into the air. Everyone pack up, let's go, don't miss the competition. Renaud. Zhong said indifferently, and then led Jason towards the team's location, leaving only Kokori and others in a daze. After a brief rest, the team set off again. Although the previous battle was fierce, fortunately, it did not directly break out among the crowd. Therefore, except for a few players who were injured by splashing rocks in the panic, the rest of the people were safe and sound. In fact, this was also intentional by Lyndon and Renaud. As the patriarch of the Decre family, Lyndon could kill Renaud and Jason in order to avenge Roosevelt and Hoover. No force on the mainland will say anything. But if he kills innocent people indiscriminately and takes action among this group of players from the Northwest countries, causing heavy casualties to the entire team, this will completely turn into a mass incident. The Northwest countries will never give up. It's time to file a complaint to the Kamikaze Empire and the Twin Towers. Even as the leader of the Lyndon Decker family, there is nothing he can do. After all, these geniuses from the Northwest Nagisa Kingdom are all going to the Lubanar Kingdom to participate in the Continental Elite Trials held by Minta. Lyndon's actions are simply a slap in the face. As the organizer, the Twin Towers will definitely not. Lyndon also knew that he would let the Decker family go. Therefore, except for a limited number of people who were injured previously, the rest of the team was just a little frightened and their bodies were indeed safe. Of course, those few players were injured at this critical moment. Even if they were cured, they would not be able to participate in this competition. It's time for the elite trials. The team moved forward slowly in the valley. Along the way, many mountain peaks collapsed in the previous battles. When all the guards and geniuses from the Northwest countries saw this situation, they thought about Renaud's strength. All felt a hint of terror. As for the caravans following Renaud and others, they were completely frightened. When they found out from somewhere, the person they attacked was actually the head of the Decker family in the Kamikaze Empire, one of the 4 major empires in the mainland. One person came when he was reading a book. The intermediate-level imperial spiritual masters, and who had fallen into the hands of Renaud in the previous battle, were all stunned. They all knew that the emergence of Renaud, a new era belonging to their Northwest countries, was probably coming. In the following days, Lin and others were full of vigilance and fear. It was not until they entered the territory of the Lubanar Kingdom a month later and met with the officials of the Lubanar Kingdom who came to receive them that they fully relaxed. As long as the team reaches the Lubanar Kingdom, the host of the alliance of small countries in the northwest of the continent, there will usually be no surprises. The Lubanar Kingdom is located in the northwest of the continent, south of the Northwest countries. The western part of the Cairo Empire was an extremely powerful kingdom. The area of Lubinar Kingdom is not large, about 1/10 of the Northwest countries. Although it is only a kingdom, its political status on the mainland is more powerful than the Northwest countries. Not for otherwise, it is because the Hogwart family, the royal family of the Lubinar Kingdom, has a strong person at the level of an 8th-level senior imperial spiritual master. On the Stern continent, it is a measure of whether a country or a family is strong. The only criterion is not how many members the family has, nor how much property the family has, but how strong the family's peak military force is in that country. A force without a top master can never be called a country. A big force. In fact, in terms of geographical area, total economic volume, population, and the number of imperial spiritual masters, the Northwest countries are far more powerful than the Lubinar Kingdom. However, it is precisely because the Lubinar Kingdom has a strong man at the level of an imperial spiritual master has made the Lubinar Kingdom's political status on the mainland far surpass that of the Northwest countries. As the team slowly moved forward in the Lubinar Kingdom, there were suddenly more and more pedestrians of all kinds along the way. 5 days later, the team successfully arrived at the outskirts of Qatar, the royal city of King Lubinar. On the periphery of King Lubinar's royal city, many buildings were built, forming a group of buildings. The distribution of each building group is very regular. From an overall perspective, it obviously acts as a buffer zone. These building groups obviously have there are very tight defenses interlocking to guard the royal city of Qatar on the outside. The teams from the Northwest countries passed the verification and then came to the road leading to the royal city of Qatar. Looking from a distance, even though they were more than 10 miles away, they could clearly see the majestic royal city of Qatar in the distance. It was majestic and awe-inspiring. When Jason saw Qatar, the royal city of Lubinar Kingdom, for the first time, these 8 outstanding comments immediately came to mind. The team of Jason and others entered from the eastern border of the Lubinar Kingdom, so the teams from the Northwest countries also entered the royal city from the east gate, gradually approaching, and soon arrived at the east gate. The guards at the city gate set up checkpoints at all levels, checked the documents distributed by the Twin Towers, and checked the identities one by one. After all this was done, the guard captain stepped out and said, "Remember, after you enter the royal city of Qatar, try to stay in the kingdom. Of course, you can travel in the mansion arranged by you, but if anyone dares to cause trouble in the royal city, once he is caught, no matter who he is, he will suffer a lot." The guard captain looked extremely arrogant. He said to many Northwest princes. The country's talented player snorted coldly, ignoring the livid faces of D. Lin and others. All the players nodded repeatedly, with awe in their hearts. Looking at the majestic city, everyone who was talking and laughing all the way restrained themselves a lot. Humph. After entering the city, Kakori, the #1 master of the Dongi Kingdom, couldn't help but snorted, "I'm just a city guard captain, what's so arrogant about it? If there was such a city guard captain in our Dongi Kingdom, he would have been there long ago. I slapped him to death." "Brother Kakori, don't be angry. The status of our Northwest countries in the west of the continent has always been like this. Don't you know it yet? But I believe that one day, our Northwest countries will be in the west of the continent and everyone will be impressed." D. Lin sneered from the side. After the words fell, D. Lin, Kakoli, Leo and other 7th-level imperial spiritual masters from the Northwest countries secretly glanced at Renault and Jason in the team, flashing a glimmer of hope. With these 2 people, why should the Northwest countries be unhappy? After Jason and others' team from the Northwest countries entered the royal city of Qatar, a commissioner from the Lubinar Kingdom who was waiting for contestants from all over the country soon led everyone to a mansion outside the royal city. This is a large mansion with a radius of nearly 100 acres, and it is full of beautiful pavilions. For this continental elite selection, the Lubinar Kingdom built and vacated a large number of mansions within the royal city to accommodate contestants from all over the Northwest. Everyone, this mansion is prepared for the contestants from the Northwest countries. At the door of the mansion, the commissioner of the Lubinar Kingdom laughed. "Not bad, not bad. Looking at this mansion, Lin and others couldn't help but nod, and then walked out and said, "Aside from this one, how many other mansions are there for us in the Northwest countries?" Then the smile on the commissioner's face paused and he said, "My lord, this mansion is all used by your Northwest countries. As for the other mansions, they are all arranged for other countries and forces." "What? Just this one?" In front of the team, Lin and others were stunned, but then they couldn't help but frown. Although the mansion in front of you is large, it is just like a normal family mansion. It has a large number of pavilions, rockeries and ponds, but there are not many houses for people to live in. A rough estimate is that it can accommodate more than 300 people. There are too many, but Lin and his team have nearly 1,000 people. It is difficult to arrange. Look at our team. There are nearly 1,000 people living in such a mansion. How do you want us to live there? In the team, Kakori spoke to the commissioner of the Rubiner Kingdom with an angry look on his face. This, the commissioner said with embarrassment on his face, according to the roster you provided, there are 300 contestants from the Northwest countries. Such a mansion is enough. For this continental elite selection, there are a total of 300 contestants in the entire Northwest. With nearly 10,000 contestants, it is difficult for us in the Rubiner Kingdom to arrange arrangements. If it is not possible, the remaining people will have to find hotels in the royal city to stay. Please forgive me. Looking for a hotel to stay in the royal city by yourself? Kakori and the others laughed angrily. They came all the way here, but they didn't even have accommodation in the Rubiner Kingdom, which made them extremely angry. Kakori, forget it. Seeing the embarrassment on the commissioner's face, Lin said coldly. The other party was just a reception specialist and could not make any decisions at all. It was useless to embarrass the other party. The Northwest countries have always been unpopular among the major forces in the northwest of the mainland. This is a consistent thing. But this time, they didn't even arrange a residence. This made Lin and others angry, but other than that, in addition, they have nothing to do. Who makes the Northwest countries not strong? The weak will be bullied. This is the truth. If the mansion is not enough, the only excuse is to lie. Qatar is the royal city of the Rubiner Kingdom, with a permanent population of nearly 1 million, there is no problem at all in arranging tens of thousands of people. Lin did not believe that for powerful forces such as the Western Wilderness Tribe, the mansion arranged by the Rubiner Kingdom would not be enough. Okay. Lin said indifferently, except for the contestants and a few of us, the rest of the guards are arranged in the hotel in the royal city of Qatar, or in the buildings outside the royal city. Kakori and others nodded. Now, this is the only way. You have come all the way, so you must be tired. Why don't you go back to the mansion and rest early? 5 days later, all the contestants will gather in the square outside the palace. There will be messengers from the Twin Towers to explain the selection to you. According to the rules, someone will notify you when the time comes. Please don't be absent. I still have something to do, so I'll go ahead and say goodbye. Goodbye. Seeing that Lin and others were not fussy, the commissioner explained the matter clearly and quickly left with a pat on the butt. He also knew that if he stayed, he would just be looked down upon. Everyone, have you all seen this? After the commissioner left, Lin did not rush to enter the mansion. Instead, he shouted to the dense crowd of players behind him, without strength, you will be looked down upon wherever you go. A mainland elite selection competition. I hope you can fight for our Northwest countries, let them know the style of our young people from the Northwest countries, and build the prestige of our Northwest countries. Show your reputation, show your reputation. The eyes of Okaso and other players were red and they roared angrily. Everything that had happened before made them feel aggrieved. Under Lin's encouragement, they suddenly turned into a high-spirited fighting spirit. Even the company Jason in the team felt the roars of the players around him, and the blood in his chest was also a little excited. As a member of the Kingdom of Orlando, he is also a member of the Northwest countries. The attitude of others towards them along the way, although with outstanding performance, Sen's character has always been disapproving, but in this special situation, he was inevitably angry at the other party's blindness. Okay. Lin's eyes flickered. After instructing Kokori to lead the guards to find a place to stay, Lin led the 300 talented players into the mansion and arranged their own accommodation. In a luxurious mansion not far away on the same street. An old man couldn't help being slightly startled after hearing the roars of Okaso and others. The Northwest Kingdoms? The old man couldn't help but trace a disdainful smile. The Northwest Kingdoms have the largest territory among the major forces in the Northwest, but their strength has always been the lowest. No matter how loud they roar, will it change? Strong? That's ridiculous. Adkins, the old man yelled at a young man with a sword-shaped mark on his forehead. Master. The young man took a step forward, his eyes were cold and the aura on his body was extremely weak and blended with the spiritual elements in the air, but it made people feel chilled just by looking at him. This elite selection competition in the northwest of the mainland is not difficult for you at all. Your stage should be in the mainland elite competition. In this selection competition, what I hope is that you can qualify with an absolute advantage and will defeat all the opponents you encounter. Let the reputation of my kingdom of Baiue resound throughout the northwest of the continent. I want you to tell them, we, the kingdom of Baiue, are the #1 force in the northwest of the continent. Yes. The young man spoke coldly, his eyes full of determination. Seeing the young man's confident eyes, the old man couldn't help but nodded with a smile. Deep in the palace of King Lubaner. A strong Middle Eastern man holding a red sword and a man wearing the blonde woman with cyan leather armor stood face to face, and two powerful spiritual powers, one red and one green, continued to rise from their bodies, and the air became faintly distorted. A red light flashed in the middle-aged man's eyes, and then the sword in his hand slashed down. Boom! With strong energy, dozens of fire dragons as thick as buckets roared at the blonde woman. These dozens of fire dragons, either biting, waving their claws, or roaring, rushed towards the blonde girl from all directions. Wow, a green sword light lit up. The figure of the blonde girl was blurred, and in an instant, more than 10 phantoms of blonde girls appeared around her. Chi! 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 The flames flew away, and the bodies of dozens of fire dragons were either broken, or their heads were thrown away, or their entire bodies were broken. Collapse. Everything in the eyes was lost in the air. Very good. The middle-aged man's eyes lit up. Dini Shah, you have improved more than before. You are the most amazing genius in the history of our kingdom of Lubaner. Father, the blonde woman shook her head, my speed is not fast enough, you did not release all your strength before, otherwise there are 2 fire dragons among them. Although I can block them, I may not be able to defeat them with one blow. Haha. The middle-aged man smiled and said, Dini Shah, your father, I am a 7th-level intermediate imperial spiritual master. Do you want to be so powerful that you can defeat your father with a single sword? The blonde girl stopped talking and pondered over the previous 2 moves. You are the warriors of my Western Wilderness tribe, and the glory of my Western Wilderness tribe is entrusted to you. A deep voice sounded. In a large luxurious mansion in the royal city of Qatar, a giant man with his upper body naked and a wolf head tattoo on his chest stood there, exuding a heart-stopping coercion all over his body. The faintly exuding powerful force makes people's hearts tremble. Standing in front of him were only strong young men. The leader was a young man with scars on his face. His bronze skin made people feel full of strength. This time, I hope you can compete with the majesty of our Western Wilderness tribe. As long as the players who can qualify in this continental elite selection competition, regardless of whether they are civilians or nobles, they will be rewarded with a territory. Yes. All the young people roared angrily with excitement on their faces. The Western Wilderness Tribe is a force in the wilderness in the westernmost part of the continent. In such an environment, they have created iron-built warriors. As for Temujin, the giant man's eyes fell on the leading young man. Your goal is to reach the finals of the entire continent to gain recognition from the Twin Towers and compete for glory for our Western Wilderness Tribe. The leading young man nodded calmly, his eyes full of confidence. In the mansion where the Northwest Kingdoms were located, Lin also came to the room where Jason was. Master Jason, in this Continental Elite Selection competition, the hopes of the Northwest countries are all placed on you people. If possible, I hope you can win some face for our Northwest countries. Lin, his face was solemn, and he spoke with a hint of pleading. Don't worry, since I'm participating, I will fight with all my strength. Jason smiled. Lord Dylan, don't worry. If the young master works hard, Claire will work hard and win glory for the young master. Claire on the side also vowed. Okay. Dylan's face was full of smiles. With Jason's words, he felt relieved. Although he didn't know how strong Jason was. But since Jason could block 2 7th-level Emperor Spirit Master assassins, his assassination, no matter how bad it was, should not be much different from that of a 7th-level low-level Imperial Spiritual Master. It can be said that Jason is the secret weapon of the Northwest countries this time.